Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Spin It Reviews, and today I'm going to be talking about two recent blockbusters, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Guardians of the Galaxy. So for those of you tuning into this channel for the first time, you should probably know that movie reviews aren't usually my kind of thing. I usually focus more on music and album reviews, hence the background. And also, it just so happens that both my most and least viewed reviews are of movies, so how this is going to do is anyone's guess, really. Now, something I should probably tell you guys is that when I went to go see these movies a few days ago, I did technically see Guardians of the Galaxy first, and then just later kind of snuck into TMNT. But I decided to talk about TMNT first just because I kind of want to get my thoughts on that out of the way first. Honestly, going into this, I really had no idea what to think. Of course, the blindly nostalgic 90s kids were calling it the worst thing ever just because Michael Bay's name is attached to it, and maybe it took a few little liberties. Some people I knew were calling it pretty good for what it's worth, and of course the box office numbers spoke for themselves. Personally, while I do know a good amount about this franchise and like the general premises and characters and stuff like that, it was never really a key part of my childhood or anything like that, so I never really got into it beyond like a couple years ago watching a couple episodes of the old cartoon. So, I didn't really have any biases going into this, so I figured that I'd just eliminate any kind of prior opinion going into this movie, and see, I might have not gone in with any kind of prior opinion as to the actual quality of the movie, but I did go in with a sort of little mental checklist for like a few little things I predicted to be in the movie, and this was basically that checklist, nothing more, nothing less. Kinda cool visuals? Check. Megan Fox being unconvincing? Check. 3 painful jokes for a decent one? Check. Plot trope of April's co-workers not believing her and then changing their mind when they meet the Turtles that goes on way longer than it has to? Check. Awkward attempts at being self-aware that aren't really self-aware? Check. Jarring tone between lowest common denominator silliness and taking itself way too seriously? Check. And that was just me without wanting to hate it. It just feels so soulless to me. There's no plot turn I didn't see coming a mile away, no joke that fell outside the obvious, no performance that especially impressed. It just kind of seemed like the result of some big-time movie execs thinking, hey, the 90s are cool again, let's make a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. And they did, and now we have this. I can't even say it sucked, because that would imply it got some kind of reaction to me. Whereas what just happened is I just kind of sat there the whole time, feet on the railing, sulking further and further in my seat, and just thinking, yup, this exists. So, say I'm gonna go kind of straight down the middle on this and give it a 5.5. It's nothing absolutely terrible, but it's nothing I'd really say is worth your time unless you're like a die-hard, need-to-see everything fan of the franchise. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's talk about Guardians of the Galaxy. Again, a little bit of personal background. I've seen pretty much every one of these Marvel movies since the Avengers, so I call myself kind of a casual fan, even though I love pretty much everyone I've seen so far. And as great as the Avengers and Thor: The Dark World, and especially Captain America: The Winter Soldier was, I gotta say, this is probably my favorite Marvel movie to date. Now, just for a little compare and contrast, since this is sort of a double review, pretty much everything that TMNT does wrong, this one does like a million times better. The comedy hits hard pretty much every time, and always seems to fit in no matter what's going on. The acting is fantastic all around, and the characters are all really immediately distinct and likable, which if you think about it is a pretty hard task on Marvel's part, because they had to introduce not 1, not 2, but 5 new major characters into the MCU. Luckily, they seem to be doing pretty much everything right with this, and I can see these characters becoming household names in the near future. Another thing this movie got right that other one didn't is that even though, sure, there are a couple little plot elements you might kind of see coming, and pretty much everything around it is done in such a great way that at the end of the day you just don't really care, whereas with that other one, it's just that all the flaws of it are just in your face and just so there that it just distracts from anything else going on. Of course, since I'm mostly a music reviewer, I do have to talk about the soundtrack, and even if this doesn't end up being my all-time favorite Marvel movie, the way they use the music in this movie is just incredible. Now, I'm sorry to kind of be stealing a point from Matt Lieberman from the SourceFed review, since I love that channel a lot, but the way the songs, these classic songs, are integrated into this movie with the different character developments and little plot points here and there going into the more comedic or more emotional moments, it almost kind of makes the music its own little minor character, and it's just very well done, I gotta say. So yeah, safe to say, I'm pretty much in love with this movie. It balances the comedy with the emotional, with the characters, with the big action and stuff, just so perfectly in the same way that these other Marvel movies over the last few years have. And managed to sort of blow away the underdog expectations that it got in anticipation to its release. I don't want to give it a perfect 10 just because I feel like I want to reserve that in movies for stuff that has very sentimental value to me, like Lego Movie from earlier this year. So I'm going to give this just one step below that and give it a 9.5. You guys really do have to see this movie as soon as possible, especially if you are into the whole Marvel and superhero thing. But even if you're not and just kind of want to get introduced to it in a way, this is a great way to get into it. So yeah, what do you guys think about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Guardians of the Galaxy? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments down below, and be sure to be civil. Share this around with anyone who might be interested, like the Facebook page in the description for updates and commentaries, music news, reviews of older albums, and hopefully I'll see you in the next episode of Spin Reviews. It's funny how Will Arnett is in both my favorite and least favorite movies of the year so far. I just don't know what to think about the guy. So to kind of close out this review, I want to tell you guys a funny little story about what happened after I left the theater. So about a quarter-mile away from the local theater is a comic book store, which I know about since I've been there before for this thing called Free Comic Book Day a few months ago, where I just so happened to get something related to what I'm about to tell you. I walked out of this movie, of course, absolutely loved it, like you just saw earlier, and I decided to get little Star-Lord. You know, maybe get on the path to becoming more of a comic fan. You never know. I mean, I've been watching the car for a couple of years, but it's not really gotten much past that, so yeah, maybe this will get me into reading some more Guardians of the Galaxy. It says a lot that this is what I got over that other franchise that started in comic books. Heck, maybe next time at the record store I'll get hooked on a feeling of 45, I don't know.